Amid the smoke and fury of the Battle of Hogwarts, a figure stood resolute atop the castle battlements. Her wand hand was steady, her jaw set with iron. Minerva McGonagall, teacher, guardian, war witch, summoned stone to life. Suits of armor thundered into ranks, statues grinded awake, and the ancient castle itself seemed to answer her call. In that moment, she was more than a professor. She was the heart of a fight for survival, the unyielding guardian of every student within these walls. But who was this woman beyond the battle? What paths, what sacrifices, what heartbreaks had led her to this defining moment? This is the story of Minerva McGonagall, an untold life behind a legendary name. Welcome to the Forgotten Mage. Minerva McGonagall was born in the rugged Scottish Highlands, a land where mist drapes the hills like a soft cloak and lochs shimmer with hidden depth. Her father, Robert McGonagall, a devout Presbyterian minister, and her mother, Isabel Ross, a witch who had forsaken her pure-blood heritage for love, shaped her early world. From a very young age, Minerva displayed extraordinary intelligence and an instinctive command of magic. She could charm thistles to dance in the garden, coax the church cat to follow her with precision, and once, at only 7, transformed her father's pocket watch into a field mouse for just a few moments. Her mother scolded her for mischief, but pride lingered in her eyes. The Highlands themselves molded her character. She learned from the stories of Selkies and Kelpies, shape-shifting spirits and enchanted forests, that magic was not merely a tool, it was a language, a force to be respected and understood. These early years instilled discipline, patience, and an acute observation of the natural world, lessons that would carry her through every trial ahead. At school and in the village, she practiced secrecy. The villagers could not understand her abilities, and she learned the early lesson that sometimes power must remain hidden. It was a lesson she would carry into adulthood, one that allowed her to operate quietly, yet effectively, in a world constantly threatened by darkness. When her Hogwarts letter arrived, Minerva entered a new world of towering stone, flickering candles, and enchanted corridors. The Sorting Hat examined her mind carefully. Ravenclaw admired her intellect, her thirst for knowledge, her strategic mind. Gryffindor recognized courage, fierce loyalty, and a protective streak that would later define her. After a tense moment, the hat decided Gryffindor. At Hogwarts, Minerva excelled immediately. Her talent for transfiguration was exceptional, drawing early notice from Professor Dumbledore. She could turn animals into objects and back again with finesse and subtlety, mastering techniques that even older students struggled to control. She became Gryffindor's Quidditch captain, not for showmanship, but for her ability to anticipate strategy, to remain calm under pressure, and to lead by example. Yet Minerva's years at Hogwarts were not only about spells and games. She formed key friendships and subtle rivalries. She defended younger students from bullies, often challenging older students from Slytherin or other houses when she saw injustice. Even then, her sharp tongue and keen wit made it clear she was to be respected, not crossed. She also began experimenting secretly with Animagus transformation. Late at night, She would sneak through the corridors practicing the delicate control required to shift seamlessly into a tabby cat, a form she would eventually register officially with the ministry. Each success strengthened her confidence. Each failure taught patience. If the Sorting Hat had placed her in Ravenclaw instead of Gryffindor, how might Hogwarts history have changed? Share your theories below. After graduation, Minerva did something few of her classmates expected. She returned to the Muggle world. She found work near her family home and, in the quiet rhythm of village life, met Dougal MacGregor, a kind and steady young farmer whose hands carried the scent of earth and rain. Their days together were simple yet luminous. Long walks across dewy fields at dawn, shared laughter over tea in his modest kitchen, nights watching constellations wheel silently above the Highlands. It was a love without grandeur, but rich in peace. Yet the veil between their worlds was ever present. Every time she bit back a truth about her schooling, her abilities, the secret wars fought in the shadows, she felt the weight of it. The international statute of secrecy demanded silence, but her heart longed for honesty. Memories of her parents pressed on her mind. She had seen the quiet loneliness in her father's eyes when her mother's magical world intruded, the unspoken sacrifices they both carried. Could she, with her unshakable sense of duty, condemn Dougal to that same life? The answer, when it came, was sharp and final. She ended the engagement in a rain-slicked field, the smell of wet earth and heather heavy in the air. Dougal never understood why, and Minerva never told him. It was a wound she would carry quietly for the rest of her days, a reminder that love and duty do not always walk the same road. The Ministry of Magic seemed a natural place for her talents. In the Department of Magical Law Enforcement, Minerva's precision and incorruptibility quickly set her apart. Her reports were impeccable, her spell work efficient, her judgments fair yet unyielding. She refused bribes, resisted political influence, and applied the law with an almost surgical clarity. In back rooms, whispers began. McGonagall could not be bought. But the ministry was also a place of endless parchment, layered bureaucracy, and decisions diluted by politics. She chafed at rules made to protect reputations rather than people. It was Albus Dumbledore who extended the lifeline, an invitation to return to Hogwarts as a Transfiguration professor. At Hogwarts, her sharp edges found purpose. She drilled her students with discipline, but always with the goal of empowering them. She did not tolerate laziness, yet her praise, when earned, was given with a sincerity that made it rare and precious. Over time, she rose to deputy headmistress, a role in which she quietly safeguarded the castle. Secret wards were woven into unused corridors. Contingency plans were drawn for evacuations no one else suspected might be needed. By day, she taught Transfiguration. By night, she prepared for storms on the horizon. The first Wizarding War did not announce itself with fanfare. It crept in, a gathering shadow. At Hogwarts, Minerva became a quiet but vital member of the Order of the Phoenix. She was not the kind to boast of her role. Her value was in being unseen. She mapped the castle's passages for secure escapes. She trained older students in defensive charms under the guise of advanced study groups. She intercepted messages, passed them to Dumbledore, and smoothed over incidents before they could erupt into panic. Her greatest strength was her ability to read people. She could spot fear masked as arrogance or deception wrapped in politeness. More than once, she guided a wayward student back to safety without ever revealing how close they had come to danger. Few knew how much she did. That suited her fine. The measure of her service was not in recognition, but in the lives that continued safely, unaware of the war at their doorstep. When Dolores Umbridge's pink-clad tyranny descended on Hogwarts, Minerva's resistance was precise, deliberate, and devastatingly calm. She did not shout or rage. She cut through deceit with truth, exposed cruelty with wit, and made it clear to students that defiance could be intelligent as well as loud. She shielded Harry Potter where she could, coached students in reading between the lines of official decrees, and ensured that her classroom remained one of the few safe spaces left. She taught not just spells, but critical thinking, the kind that survives propaganda. The night Hagrid was attacked, she stood between him and the Ministry auras, her small frame an unshakable wall. 4 stunners struck her, sending her to St. Mungo's. Days later, she was back, the bruises still fresh, her gaze sharper than ever. Students whispered about her in corridors, not as a teacher, but as a force. For some, she was the first adult to prove that authority could be both principled and fearless. When Voldemort's forces came, Minerva did not hesitate. She summoned the defenders of the castle, her voice carrying over stone and storm. Statues and suits of armor shuddered to life under her command, their movements in perfect, echoing rhythm. She directed staff and students like a chess master, her eyes always scanning for the next danger. She dueled with lethal precision, turning Transfiguration into both shield and sword. Stone walls reshaped to block curses. Shattered wood became barriers, even fire bent to her will. Yet amid the chaos, she never lost sight of the human cost. Between volleys of spells, she comforted the frightened, shielded the wounded, and carried messages to the front lines herself. When the battle paused, she moved through the great hall, murmuring the names of the fallen, touching shoulders in silent comfort. She would carry those names for the rest of her life. After the war, the castle was a scarred survivor. Minerva, now headmistress, became both healer and architect. She ordered the repair of ancient towers, the restoration of the Black Lake's shores, and the renewal of the Quidditch pitch. But rebuilding was more than stone and mortar. She brought rival houses into shared projects, established scholarships for war orphans, and invited guest lecturers from across the magical world to inspire curiosity beyond Britain's borders. Her leadership blended high expectations with deep compassion. She told students bluntly that they were the future and the world was in their hands now. In her presence, even the most rebellious felt the weight of responsibility. The closing chapters of Minerva's life are blurred by time and tale. Some say she returned to the Highlands, her days filled with books, the crackle of a hearth, and the occasional flicker of magic in the mist. Others insist she vanished on one last mission, tracking whispers of a rising darkness far from Hogwarts. There are stranger stories that she transformed into her Animagus form and simply walked away, a tabby cat, fading into the heather, never seen again. What remains beyond dispute is her legacy. Her former students, now aurors, healers, teachers, and ordinary citizens, speak of her with reverence. Portraits in Hogwarts watch the corridors with eyes both stern and warm, the echo of her presence lingering in every stone. She became a myth, and in some ways that was fitting. For those who knew her, the truth was simple. Minerva McGonagall was, and always would be, the castle's fiercest guardian. Minerva McGonagall's true magic was not in spells, duels, or Animagus transformations. It was in shaping minds, hearts, and environments. She transfigured fear into duty, grief into clarity, and a war-torn school into a sanctuary of learning and courage. Her legacy reminds us that heroism is measured not in glory, but in steadfastness, wisdom, and the courage to protect what is right. If you could ask McGonagall one question and she had to answer, what would it be and why? This is The Forgotten Mage,